first of all, I would go to a movie theater at this point if it was 50% occupancy and everyone wore masks. I don't have a problem
Well,
with that.
that's the big if, though.
Well, but I just wish there were more people like me. Apparently 10% of Democrats, when they polled them a little while ago, only 10% of Democrats said they would enter a movie theater if there was no vaccine. Now, if that's true, we're in trouble. I mean, obviously we're more in trouble because of the virus, but you know, like so many people in our industry, you know, I do have my eye on, well, what's, you know, yes, we have to produce movies, but also we have to screen them. That's part of the process. And I think I'm very restless because you know, we had this film 9 days, you know, at Sundance, and it's like we're hoping it's going to be able to get out there into the world, and I think it's going to, but it's just a question of when.
Well, so where are you right now?
Okay, so my wife and I have been in Truro, Massachusetts, which is right near the end of Cape Cod. We're in between Provincetown and Wellfleet. Right near the tip, it's known as the Outer Cape. Weirdly enough, the Outer Cape is also known as the Lower Cape, which doesn't really make any sense, but it is for some reason called the Lower Cape. And we've been here since April 10th. You know, it's a house that has been in my wife's family since she was a kid, but it's not winterized. It's not set up for the winter.
Understood.
It doesn't have the right insulation. It doesn't have any built-in heating that works. So I've never really come up in the winter, and
Right.
April was basically the winter. It was
I know it's still
30,
chilly. Yeah.
It was 30 degrees at night, and it was 40 degrees in the morning. But we literally had to wait until we could get the water turned on. The water gets turned off in the winter because if you have water going in the winter and the pipes freeze, all the pipes burst. So the end of the season every year, whenever the end of the season is, which is usually October for this house, we have to drain all the water from the pipes. And then the house is no longer really inhabitable because we have no more indoor plumbing. So the house comes to life with the water getting turned on, and we're able to find someone here to do that. It's in April, and we came up. We had quarantined in New York, or sheltered in place, whatever you want to call it, since about March 18th. Judy had a project up in Boston, and I went to visit her there, and then it shut down, and everyone moved from Boston back to New York, or wherever they were from. But it was in prep. They hadn't started shooting anything. Uh-huh. They were just prep. So yeah. So ask away.
What? Ask what? I have no questions for you, man.
Oh, you have
I have no questions for you. I'm relying on you just to talk solidly for the next half hour or 40 minutes with no interruption. Stream of consciousness. Ready and go.
Well, hi, Adam. Hi, Adam. It's good seeing you again.
This is me like a series, like now catching up with friends, instead of doing it. But doing it in this bizarrely kind of public way, I guess, semi-public way.
And then are you going to release a series of videos? Is that the plan, or put them up on your site?
Well, this could be audio only.
Yeah, or you can do video.
Okay, yeah, that's what I've been doing. I've been doing more of it because why not? I mean, as long as people are comfortable with it, it's. I think it's a nice option.
I think so. It's funny. I mean, there are a number of things that are going to come out of this process in hopefully a good way. One is that on a lot of the projects that I do, we're often editing the movie in New York State or New York City because we have a terrific tax credit, post-tax credit.
Yes.
But very often the films originate from Los Angeles or have substantial LA production company money. So
Hmm.
I'm very often faced, this was true with The Farewell and with, especially with 9 Days, with Edson Oda's film last fall,
Which one?
where it's called 9 Days.
9 days.
This is my next film to come out. It's called 9 Days. Edson Oda is the director.
Who?
Edson. You haven't heard of him yet, but
What's his name?
his name is Edson, Edson, Edson Oda, Oda.
Okay.
He's of Japanese ancestry, but he was born and raised in Brazil. So he considers himself to be Brazilian Japanese. And this was a film that we started shooting in Salt Lake City last summer, a year ago in the summer. And we shot it from June until September, early September. It was quite a long shoot because there were some, the main shoot was basically August, early September, but we also had some shooting we had to do in June and July to prepare for the main shoot, because the lead character in the movie, who's played by Winston Duke, who was one of the dads in Us, and he was also in Black Panther, a number of other films, but he's the lead.
Okay.
He plays a character who's in charge of deciding which souls get to be reborn, or get to be, actually I'm saying that wrongly, which souls get to be born. These are souls that have never been born.
What are they?
Maybe you can edit
What?
that. Well,
There's no editing. There's
no
just
editing.
Michael. Let me just say, just make a disclaimer. Michael Taylor is one of the great Indiewood editors of the day. His imprint is on countless great films, and he's brilliant and funny and smart and very good looking. And
today, at least.
and if he trips over a word here and there, it's because he's got so many thoughts and so much to contribute that these things happen. So there, now you can worry about editing.
I'm gonna try to set up this movie a little better, because all of us who worked on it are really proud of it, and I think that
I can do it. I can. It's just more work. I can edit.
Well, I don't think you need to, now that you've given that disclaimer. I know we're going to talk a lot about what's been going on in my life for the last 4 or 5 months since our basic movie world shut down, and the world itself has largely shut down.
I've heard about that.
Well, it actually has not shut down enough. That's the problem, of course.
Too much and not enough at the same time. There's all sorts of dichotomies.
Our country just gave up on it way too soon, and now we're paying the price, unfortunately. And at any point we could reverse the trajectory of this virus, but we don't have the will for it in this country at the moment.
Well, I mean, I do.
You do, I do, but we're not.
I quarantined very, very seriously for months, which was almost you could consider a waste of time now.
Well, no, not really, because you're in New York State still, I think. I'm in Massachusetts, and we're sort of in this alternate United States of the Northeast that took this thing very seriously. And once you cross the border into New Jersey and all the way up from New Jersey into New England, you have one state after another with relatively low virus levels at this moment. Massachusetts and Rhode Island are going up a little bit because we have all the beaches, so people are coming for the beaches. But we're in good shape, and if the rest of the country was like us, which they should have been by now, we would be looking forward to reopening more things in the fall.
But we're
we're going to get there, but we don't have the political will on the federal level, obviously, at the moment, and we don't, unfortunately, have it enough from the American people. We still have far too many people who don't believe in this virus.
Well, the bigger pandemic is idiocy, so unfortunately, you compile that, and then you have a disaster. And not only are, as you said, I forget which comedian talk show host says, if there's pee in the shallow part of the pool, eventually it's going to get into the deep part. So it doesn't matter. That's the problem with it. And like on a global scale, so you have those red states that, would do anything to Trump suggests, and will
Yeah.
say anything. And then, of course, on a global scale, even if like all these other great countries that have been, or I should say, other countries that are actually all but eradicated the virus, we're the problem now for them because we're still like this enormous center of, potential money for them, of tourism. I mean, it's just inevitable that if it's continues here, it will eventually make its way to other countries. It's
Yeah.
just, I mean,
No, I'm not the first to say this. I read this somewhere, so it's not my idea or anything, but I read that Canada right
mhm.
now is like having your apartment above a meth lab.
Yeah, it's a,
That's one of those slow.
yeah,
It's one of those slow burn things.
yeah,
You need to think about
I
it for a
like that.
second.
My
But
joke was that my joke was that Canada was going to build a wall
yeah,
along its southern border, and that Mexico offered to pay for it. I just like the
just so will go away.
just to
It could
punish, just
happen.
for the irony of it. They're like,
It
okay, we'll give money for that. We'll pay for that.
that wall will pay for.
Yeah.
But so it's been, Adam. I know we only have so much time. We could
No,
spend,
go ahead. Don't worry about it.
we could talk for hours because it's such a tragic time for the world and for
Yeah.
so many Americans. But for some people, it's hardly tragic at all. If like like my wife and myself, fortunate enough to have a nice apartment in New York and a country house up in Cape Cod that we can go to, where we've been retreating since mid-April. We hardly feel the effects at all. We wear a mask everywhere we go. We've
You're
had
both your um, careers are completely tied to film
well,
world,
our
and
careers are in essence on pause right now.
right.
And that
So
Judy she was about to start a film that she was in prep. And in my case, I had a few small things lined up that were sort of leftover finishing projects from last year. But in any sort of normal year, I would have been on a regular narrative feature film by June or July. And right now we'd be sort of in the trenches editing it for Sundance or
sure.
something like that. And instead, I'm quite deep into some documentary projects, which is an area of filmmaking that I haven't been doing as much of recently. I started my career with quite a few documentaries mixed in with narratives, and it was kind of half and half back then. Every time I do a doc, I would do a narrative next and then a documentary. But uh, documentaries are really easy for me to work on right now because people simply have to send me their footage. And I'm actually on 3 projects right now that I'm juggling, and I sometimes will work on one project one day and another project the next day, and then go back to the other one, and that's kind of fun. And I have 2 hard drives on my desk which cover 3 different projects, and I'm about to get a 3rd hard drive this weekend or Monday for a 4th project. So that's kind of exciting. Like a lot of us fortunate Americans, we were collecting the $600 a week while I was there, which was useful. For my wife and myself, it was much less money than we normally make, but our expenses were low and we weren't working. It was like we were on vacation. Again, I had to keep telling myself, we're the extraordinary lucky ones who are out here in the country with our cat and, collecting almost $2,000 a week, but are for doing nothing. Well, I would say doing nothing, except that we're really just getting our taxes back that we've paid. It's not like money we didn't put in at some point. But it's funny. I at the beginning of the year, or when this started, which really March for us in America, in the United States, I've been I was coming off of a project that I was really proud of that I started to tell you about a moment ago, 9 Days. Jason Berman, who's a terrific producer, was one of our lead producers, and we had several other producers from other companies. working on this film with Edson Oda, and the cast is really one of the best casts of actors I've ever had for any movie. It was and for me as an editor, that makes a huge difference. Hopefully the script is good and the story, but
Hmm.
I thrive on what actors can do. And for this one, we had Winston Duke working with Zazie Beetz, and
Mm.
Zazie was in Joker, and she's on
The
Atlanta.
neighbor, right? She was the neighbor.
She was the neighbor, and as good as she was in Joker, I love Joker, by the way. Zazie has so much more that she can do and that she can show off in this movie, and same for Winston Duke, who had a great role in Us and in Black Panther, but in this movie he can really show off his range. He can show it. He's just a terrific, like Shakespearean level actor, just fantastic. And then we had this wonderful guy from England, from Manchester, Benedict Wong, who was in Doctor Strange, a number of other films. We've got Tony Hale, double Emmy winner for Veep and numerous other
Yeah,
things.
and Arrested Development.
Arrested Development, really lovely guy and so talented.
I'd like to get
And
him on eventually. That would be fun.
you should. Well, when this movie comes out, which
Yeah.
I think is either going to be later this year or it might be at the beginning of next year, because they've moved the whole awards season so that like
Yeah.
January and February next year are sort of what used to be November and December, when always the films that people have the greatest hopes for award consideration come out in the last 10 weeks of the year, it seems. So the last 10 weeks of the year for this year is going to be the first 10 weeks of next year. It's very strange. We're used to like January being sort of a desert for films, but it may turn out to be a wonderful time for us if
Hmm.
we can beat this virus and we can open up movie theaters again.
If they were there to open.
I mean, I'm just speaking very selfishly. I want there to be movie theaters so people can
Well,
come
it's not
see the films
selfish.
people are on.
Oh, well, yeah.
Well, and of course, I
Yeah.
want movie theaters so I can go see things too. I mean, at the beginning of this crisis, like so many other people, I realized this is the time. Like, it's the time I always thought about, like when I would break my leg or something, which I fortunately have never done. Where I finally get to catch up on all the Netflix shows, all the HBO shows. I finally finished Westworld, and I started to watch Mad Men all over again, and we finished Homeland, and my wife and I watch a lot of Nordic noir, of which there's like so many different detective shows from
Yeah.
Sweden.
You watched Homeland?
Oh, I loved Homeland. I
Yeah, I
always
watched.
loved Homeland.
I still haven't finished that. But are you watched all of this? The last you watched the final season and all?
We watched the final season, and I got to the which
Jacob-
I loved actually.
Jacob's mother, isn't that? My ex-wife.
Oh, I didn't know that. What part did she play? Do you know?
I haven't caught up yet. I mean, I'm in season 5 or something.
Oh wow. Well,
but I stopped watching it a while. I have to go back and finish it up.
Well, Homeland was interesting because it sort of dipped down a little bit. It was great in the first few years with Brody being part of it. Then it dipped down a little bit, but then it found its legs again around season 5 or 6, and then I think it might have dipped down again. But this was a terrific season, and it was a great ending. I was really happy with it.
Yeah, they shot it in Africa.
Morocco, I think, a lot, right? Morocco.
Yeah, so she made a couple of.
Cool. Morocco seems like the sort of the stand-in place for so much of the third world. It's like all kinds of Arab countries. It's sort of.
I don't know why I can't get it at the moment. Yeah, but if you look it up, she's on the last season. She plays an agent or something like that. I don't remember.
But it's been again, anyway. And I have to qualify all of this by saying my wife and I were among the lucky ones. I can't say we had so much money saved up or anything because we didn't. We both work on modest projects. We don't get paid that much that we can always have something put aside. But our living expenses are cheap, and we had government money coming in, and it's just. It's been a chance to sort of reevaluate everything.
That's very true. It's very true, right? You can I think that's the benefit if you're not completely stressed out by your circumstances. It has been a really. Can you hold on 1 second? I just have to.
Gotta put in the hearing. device.
Yeah, I got some coffee for myself as
Okay.
well. I got some
So that.
coffee. I got some coffee
Oh,
too, and
that's good.
no, that's just
I'll find.
that was a comedic prop.
Well, I like that. I don't drink. I drink socially with people. Sometimes at the end of the day or on weekends at parties, but I don't drink on my own that often, luckily. And when we came up to the countryside back in April, we didn't have any alcohol here in the house. And I thought this would be fun. And I actually had just done a film with a filmmaker in France. He and his wife didn't drink. And it was so odd being in France and not drinking wine with them. We actually, when we would go to restaurants, I would order some wine for myself because it just felt I needed to have that in France. But up here, I went through this experiment of not drinking for about 7 or 8 weeks. And
wow.
I was very happy to say there were no adverse results or effects. On a positive side,
What would be a potential adverse effect of not drinking?
Well, of like having some incredible desire for it.
Yeah.
Then
okay.
I would know that like, oh my God, luckily I didn't feel that. And I thought I would because, I drink on a fairly regular basis in the city, whether it's wine or beer or, a Negroni or a margarita or something like that. Alcohol does relax me and my job is stressful. And it's often, sometimes I find myself looking forward to just that little take the edge off moment. But I think I wanted to sort of maybe prove something to myself that I wasn't in any way dependent. And that made me very happy. But I also felt coming into this, and my wife was the same way. Obviously we've all been Zooming like crazy with people and all these different conferences. And I've joined some more organizations recently, and the more organizations you join, the more invitations now you're doing this with John Sloss and Christine Vachon, and now you're doing this thing with the union, and now you're doing this thing with the American Cinema Editors, now you're doing this with the Academy, and you get busier and busier, and there's often people, having those happy hour Zooms, and I thought, this could be a problem. We're sequestered. I don't think I have a problem, but I want to make sure I don't. And the easiest way was just to do this little experiment. When June rolled around, I thought I was ready for some alcohol again. And I've returned to my normal self of drinks here and there. And we just, I was telling you before you started recording, I think, we just had a couple of really, really good friends with us here. And they both smoke, which we don't do, but it's so funny to find people smoking these days. I know.
Yeah.
I
Well, it's an
sound so
addiction, so it's not
disapproving.
like
It's an addiction, but
yeah.
so I understand it, but it's a terrible thing for people's health, and I hate seeing it. I hate seeing people in their 20s, teens and 20s smoking.
I know.
Just starting it. These people are older, and they're wonderful people, and we had such a great time with them. And my wife and I try to be very accommodating. We didn't have any trouble with them even smoking in the house. We're not one of those people. Oh, you got to do this or that. But they both like to drink. They like wine. It's a little wine here. We had a lot of Aperol spritzes, all kinds of things. It was just it was a very celebratory time because I think, as I told you before, these guys have been quarantining in Connecticut, really have been removed from society, just like we have been. And we knew we were going to be with them for about 5 days, and we were going to have meals with them, and they were going to be staying in our house here. So we all, among the four of us, agreed that we would not wear masks. And it was really the first time I've been around anyone since the beginning, in the middle of March, not wearing it. Well, actually, we didn't wear masks at first. I mean, we started that, I think, early April, when you started to get that guidance. And we started with the bandana, like a lot of people. And I think Cuomo had a mask mandate by like late April, if my memory is correct, and also the governor here in Massachusetts. So, I mean, obviously, those of us in the Northeast states, we've been doing masks for about 4 months, but unlike the rest of the country, it was just very nice. It was almost like we were able to pretend that this virus is not here. We also actually went out to a restaurant for the first time in this whole. It was an outdoor restaurant. There was a lot of space. I had a 2-pound lobster, my first whole lobster since I've been up here, and our friends had. Everyone had good food, and it just felt like we know we're not back to normal at all. And of course, this is a problem with the rest of the country where they decided they were back to normal too soon. So I don't want to presume here, but we're very fortunate.
Well, a lot of the country wasn't even an issue of returning to normal. They never practiced any kind of alternative to begin with.
That's true. It's true.
So there was nothing to get back to normal about.
That's right. That's right. I mean, everyone. That's right. People didn't stay home, and some of their stores might have been closed, like the barber shop might have been closed or something. Look at
maybe the most extreme example of that was that Tulsa, rally in the arena. I mean, there is like, the height of idiocy and, so.
Well, it's almost like Trump was just trying to say, look, it's not anything. I'm going to prove that it's not anything. We're going to get, 15, 20,000 people together, and we're not going to wear masks. And of course they ended up with a smaller turnout. I think luckily some of it was the TikTok tickets were sold, but a lot of it was, I think people were more scared than Trump realized they would be.
Well, when you put your money where your mouth is, it's quite a different thing when you're talking about going in and the pressure to.
And then, Herman Cain, who was there, no mask, is now dead a month after the rally. Now, did he catch it at the rally or somewhere? Who will never?
No, it's beside the point. It was just, he's. And then, I thought they were, I guess he may have been asymptomatic because they did take temperatures when you went in there or something like that.
They did, but they also do say, Adam, that temperature is not always a reliable.
No, it's not. I agree.
Gauge of very often, even if you're not asymptomatic, even if you get the disease on some level, you can very often be in a point of spreading it for 4 or 5 days before you show anything.
Right.
So you're like a silent spreader, and that's really the problem. We have too many silent spreaders. You either haven't really shown the disease yet, the disease has not presented itself, or it's never going to present yourself. You're completely asymptomatic. But either way, you're lethal to other people.
Sure.
We had a situation here on the beach just the other day on Saturday when I went with my friends. We have a couple of different beaches we go to here. There's a small beach. And again, I sound so privileged, like, oh, the beach by me. But
the choice of beaches. You have a choice of.
We have a choice of beaches.
It's okay. I've been posting about. Everywhere I walk around here is like out of some sort of paradise. Out of some unbelievable.
Where are you right now, in fact?
In the Hudson Valley. I'm up in
so great.
That's where I moved.
For good or for a while?
No, not
for good.
Why would I if I need to do something in New York, I'll just go down to New York.
So are you from New York originally, Adam, or where?
Yeah.
So you're born in New Yorker and you have left New York. Wow.
Yeah. Well, there are just the only benefits. There are only reasons I was staying at this point. Well, there were two. One is, three. Three primary reasons. One is work.
Yeah.
Second, family. Third, friends. Family and friends would be second category. Third category is the infinite amount of things to do in New York City.
Right.
Which turns out to be quite finite.
Well, at the moment.
Sure. Yeah. Well, I feel like we're only in the beginning of a long process here.
Oh, I agree with you. I agree.
Right. So we'll see various stages. I'm not going to be completely nihilistic about it, but my feeling is that first there was my dad dying, and then there was my mom. I wasn't able to see her. Now I can see her, so I'm actually making an appointment to go back down to the city later this week for my second time.
That's
and
good.
Yeah, it is good. you know, like there was all the work I'm getting is I'm doing from home,
Hmm.
and that looks like that's going to be the case for a while. And so there's that was removed, and you can't really see people. I mean, you can do what you did, but you know, there's a very specific way and a very frequently see people like up here. There's nothing, and so it's very and it's, there's so much more space and room. I have family
Yeah.
coming here to visit today, uh, so we can go out to a restaurant where you're under a tent on a big
Hmm.
table,
Hmm.
space apart from anybody else, you know,
Hmm.
etc. Things
Hmm.
like that. And then, and it's actually my aunt, my mom's sister, who's coming with her husband, and we've spent
Oh,
time
that's
together over
nice.
the last. It's like one of the few people. Also, they're my version of your friends that came, and etc. So the point being, to answer your question, is almost all the reasons that I felt compelled to stay, but I was kind of burnt out. And the stuff you were talking about taking the edge off and drinking, as you were saying that, I was relating to you because I definitely developed a wine habit. Call it what you will, but I mean to take the edge off every night because it
Hmm.
just there is so much. You know, you could love your work, and I know you do, and you could be in a great relationship, and I know you are, and have all these things. But living in New York is still a stressful situation.
Oh, yeah.
You know, just the day to day stuff you deal with, and you don't even think about. You just sort of take it for granted. And so,
Well, and
I
it's always, it's like anything. It's the kind of thing like like having a little bit of money in your pocket helps to reduce the stress just a tiny bit. Like
right,
even on 9 days, the last film I did in New York, where we were on post until the middle of December, we had some very, very long days. And at, 9, 10 o'clock at night, I had no desire to take the subway up to Washington Heights. It was super easy in the morning. I could, we moved a few years ago from the Upper West Side to Washington Heights, and I was aware that it was going to add to my commute, and it did, but only in about 10 or 15 minutes in the morning. And that, I don't even feel that, I just wake up a tiny bit earlier, and I could leave my neighborhood at 9:15, 9:20 in the morning and be at work at 10 of 10, half an hour door to door, because I work at Goldcrest a lot. That's in the meatpacking district. Just but anyway,
West Side,
I stay at
right?
almost all the
So
editing
it's a straight
facilities, and
shot.
they're all on the west side, mostly Harbor, and Light Iron's a little further over. It's on Broadway, but it was pretty easy. And again, in the morning, it's the beginning of your day. You have a lot of energy. You're looking forward to your work, hopefully. Whereas at 9 or 10 o'clock, even if even if you had an incredibly satisfying day with your director and the other people you're working with, you're worn out. So like for me, the ability to take a $15 Via ride, I used to do a lot of those. But on one of my films, I discovered Via because it's much cheaper than Uber or Lyft. And of course, the whole concept with Via is a ride share, so you're with a bunch of people. So I guess that's not going to work out so well anymore. But I would spend $70, $80 a week on transportation just getting home. But it was also part of stress reduction, because if I had walked over to the subway and started waiting for the A train at 9 o'clock, 9:30, 10 o'clock, I'd be home if I'm lucky at midnight, because they don't go as often.
No, and all the
and
problems
and
start,
uh,
and the
and then you
trains go
get less sleep,
local.
and
Yeah,
then
right.
so um
That
but
decompression time becomes very valuable to New Yorkers. The
so
decompression, right? I mean, the
well, of
decompression.
course, exactly. And the thing about me being out of New York for 4 months, 5 months, whatever it is now, it's August, is I don't have to decompress from anything because I'm in beautiful countryside the whole time. Now,
Yeah.
as you pointed out, you've left New York for good. I
Well,
am
we'll say
now,
indefinite period. Yeah.
I'm one of these people, but I know a lot of other people, especially people who, a lot of the people that we all work with in New York are not from New York. They've moved to New York from different parts of the country to realize their film dreams. My wife and I, we're from New York. We're native New Yorkers, both of us, and it's at least at this moment, neither of us would ever consider not being in New York, as far as New York City, as far as it being our home base. Now, of course, I like being other places. I enjoy being in Salt Lake City last summer for 9 days and China for Lulu's film. But and I love travel. I love going all over the
Sure.
place. But I sort of like knowing that New York City will be where I come back to. And although I don't particularly want to be in New York City at this moment, as things improve, maybe as the restaurant scene improves a bit, maybe movie theaters start to open as soon as the Metrograph. I think I'm sort of like waiting for the Metrograph and the IFC and the Film Forum to tell me they're open for business. And
Well, I
maybe
wonder
I'm
how they're doing with remote. Well, I'm sorry, with virtual cinema. I can't imagine it pays the bills, but maybe.
Well, I can't, and
But maybe.
so many things are going to change on an essentially almost permanent basis from this crisis, and one of them will be that more than ever before, people will consume their movies on their computers and on their big screen TVs. That's not going to go away. I think the percentage of people who go to the movie theater is actually going to decline, but hopefully there still will be an audience for that. They're just some movie theaters will probably close, and some movies will not get made, and some movies will not get shown theatrically. I mean, we've seen this whole summer a whole bunch of smaller films that should have had summer releases now going straight to Hulu or Netflix or HBO, and for this film that we had last year, 9 days, I'm certainly hoping we still have a theatrical opening of some sort, even if it's smaller, even if the audiences are smaller. Just the fact that people get to experience something like that on a big screen. Because it's a big movie. It has a big, Edson is a very visionary director, and you sort of want to see what he's done.
Are you hired
Big.
for that film by a distribution company? Is it already distributed?
Yes, Sony
Right,
Pictures. Sony Pictures Classics. So
where'd they pick it up?
At Sundance. We were at Sundance. Okay.
So that was the first and last festival of the season this last year. I earlier this year, I should say. But so it's an unusual circumstance where you didn't have to rely anymore on the festival circuit, which people typically would probably just do to build up maybe some more press.
We're lucky. Yeah. I mean, to be really honest, we were supposed to have follow-ups like South by Southwest.
Right.
We were, I think, booked for BAM Cinema Fest in June. You know, it's you and I, we both love that festival. I think we most likely would have been in Toronto. I mean, I think we had actually gotten a commitment for Toronto, but Toronto shrank from 250 films to 50 films. And obviously, if I'm programming Toronto, I would probably choose to have 50 films that haven't been shown before rather than... Hold on a
sec. I got to pause again. I apologize. Hold that thought for a second. So, no, my aunt, her husband is got diabetes. He's takes insulin, and they at the last second, he ran back into the house before they left, and he had upset their plan. So he left his insulin in the house, and he realized that a little while ago as they're driving up here. So they stopped at a pharmacy down in Monroe, New York.
Yeah.
So they're about 45 minutes away.
Oh, wow.
But I said, just take your time, do whatever you have to do. It's better than the idea of driving all the way back.
I'm kind of amazed the pharmacy was able to give him the insulin so easily, because it's so hard getting drugs from a pharmacy if you don't have the right prescription or it's the wrong pharmacy.
Right. Well, he's it's interesting. He's like one of those rare cases of somebody who, has had this issue. It's like Mary Tyler Moore in a way, where, he's been in great shape all of his life.
Yeah.
It was not brought on. It was just genetic, or whatever.
Yeah.
But I'm sure his doctor they called the doctor and they got this.
It's good. I mean, again, nice that he was able to reach his doctor.
Yeah.
I mean, my private doctor, my personal doctor became part of a clinic and then became part of another clinic, and it's all part of NYU now, but it's hard to reach these folks.
Yeah.
But I was supposed to have a checkup today, August 10th. My last checkup was in January. I remember seeing the guy. he did give me a flu shot, which I normally have resisted in the past, but because I had actually had the flu in December.
Oh,
And we did talk about COVID, and he said, "Don't worry a thing
in
about
December?
it. The flu. I had not COVID, but I had flu in
Okay.
December for like."
No, but I was wondering when you're talking about COVID at that appointment.
We were talking in January because China announced it in December.
Oh,
Now,
okay. Can't
again,
remember.
why we didn't do anything in this country
Well,
January 1st,
no.
who knows? But we didn't. And I remember asking my doctor, was this going to be an issue, this COVID thing? And, you know, I mean, he, like so many people, he didn't have enough information, but he said, oh, you know, so many more people are going to die from the common flu, and we just don't have.
Well, it's true.
But that was the prevailing view at that point.
Right. But nobody ever, the only reason why people die of the flu is because we don't insist on quarantining for that. I mean, the truth is, if we quarantined all winter, I mean, if we were in deep quarantine again right now, even if the flu season starts, we wouldn't get
that's absolutely true. No, that's absolutely true. In fact, they've said in the southern hemisphere, which should have been having a lot of flu right now, there's almost no flu. It's eradicated. So that's a silver lining.
It is. I'm planning to get I had my last doctor appointment in March, and guess what? I had a virus when I went to my doctor appointment. This was about a week, maybe a week and a half before this quarantining started. And we were still not convinced. I had a sore throat, runny nose, a little fever at for a day or two. In retrospect now, I think I have to get the antibody test, but that could have been, I might have caught it. I just had a very light case of it, you know, because, you know, I was confirmed that I had a virus in March, just days before. I mean, COVID was around already, and obviously catching like wildfire. But I just shrugged off the idea that I had COVID. I mean, you know, and then I quarantined and then Jacob moved in right after that, and so anyhow, so I should get the antibody test, but I'm definitely getting the flu shot. You know.
Well, yeah. I mean, I'll get the flu shot, and I'll get you know, if there's reasonable assurances that the vaccine is halfway safe. Again, I guess, you know, we all have different levels. We have different levels of risk assessment. And like I say, if there's a movie theater showing a movie I want to see, and I think right now I've decided 50% is what I'm looking for. If they've closed off 50% of the seats,
well,
I'll do that.
I think that's what
that's what they thought they were going to do. I mean, they were supposed to open July 15th. Right. Remember back in April, that's what they were saying. They're going to show Tenet July 15th, followed by Mulan, which is now on to Disney.
What about the drive-in idea?
Well, drive-ins are fine, but there's only so many drive-ins, and we're in kind of a weird drive-in situation now, where they're showing occasional art films like the Amy Seimetz film, which I hear is great, by the way. You should.
I just had her on the pot. I did.
Oh, you did? Oh, I haven't heard that yet.
It's on the current episode is Amy Seimetz, Caitlin Scheel, and Jane Addams.
Oh, I've never worked with Amy directly, but Kate, of course, was in the comedy.
Right.
And Jane Addams was in Happiness all those years ago.
Well, you didn't do that.
I script supervised.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah. I did 2 films with Todd Solondz, Happiness and Storytelling. So those were good days before I became an editor.
Yeah.
So that was good stuff. Well, okay. I'm going to definitely listen to that show.
It's short. My problem with it is that it's just I didn't get enough time for what I made an exception. Mm-hmm. You know, I normally don't do under a half hour or 20 minutes to half hour.
Right.
And with both of them, I had about 15. I think I stole a few extra minutes. It's just I can't get into the rhythm, and so I typically don't do it. So I feel like it just doesn't work with the kind of thing I'm doing to do shorter.
Unless I go on a lot of bike rides here, but I listen to podcasts and books very often.
Sure.
Well, I listened to this whole book about Chernobyl when I first got here, And then after Chernobyl, I did one about Bruce Springsteen and the East Street Band, a little lighter subject than Chernobyl. And right now I'm actually listening to Brian Stevenson's memoir about Mercy, which, you know, is kind of an incredible book. You know, that's obviously the foundation for the film about Mercy.
Okay.
Which I actually still haven't seen. I've heard it's terrific. And then there's a documentary about Brian Stevenson on HBO called Finding Justice. He's, you know, a leading opponent of the death penalty, and one of these, you know, hundreds of tiresome lawyers out there working to free people who've been imprisoned erroneously, or just to free them, period, or make sure that the state doesn't kill them.
Sure.
So I've been doing that, but I'll switch to your podcast, and because I want to hear those.
There's some great stuff on it.
I know I've been looking. You've been having some good people on. But you know, a lot has happened, Adam, since I last saw you, which was I saw you a year ago.
Is it that long?
It was actually, Adam, it was 13 months ago. You came. I remember exactly where it was. I was editing a very frustrating scene for 9 days at the moment. It wasn't going the way I wanted it to go. And I also knew that I was going to fly to Salt Lake City on Monday. And you came on Friday evening. And I really wanted to see you, really wanted to talk to you, but I was in the middle of like artistic stress of having not gotten the scene I was working on to the point where I wanted it to be. And it was annoying me. So it was sort of hard to take a break mentally, come down and talk to you. Yeah. But we did. We talked for about an hour, I think. And we talked about 3 films. We talked about the 3 films that hadn't come out: The Farewell, Skin, and The Mountain. And the rest is history. It turned out to be, for a lot of us, a very exciting year. Honestly, one of the best years for me in terms of a theatrical release hitting people. Mm-hmm. And The Farewell was interesting because once it passed a certain number of cities, it started tapering off. You know, it got to about 20 million. And then it started tapering off, and that seemed to be largely continued resistance to subtitles.
And you really called it on the on Awkwafina, that her winning.
Yeah. She ended up winning Best Actress at the Gothams, which we were privileged to attend, and we were able to celebrate with Awkwafina and Lulu and the producers, and then then we had the Spirit Awards, and it won Best Film at the Spirit Awards. And Awkwafina didn't win an award that night, but she won the Golden Globe and the Gotham earlier. And then myself, it was very fortunate for me and my co-editor, Matt Friedman, we were nominated for Best Editing of a Comedy at the Ace Eddie Awards. First time I've ever had any kind of nomination on that level. And we lost to Jojo Rabbit. But we were nominated, and it was exciting to be able to go to the Eddie Awards in Hollywood. They were at the Beverly Hilton. I've been a few times before, but never nominated. So that was very exciting for me. And then Ace invited me to join the American Cinema Editors. Mm-hmm. So actually, when 9 Days comes out, it will be the first film I've worked on where after my editing credit will be the little ACE.
Oh, right.
Which is nice. It sort of puts me, more in the realm of all these editors I've admired over the years. And
also, so maybe there are some filmmakers who might take your name into deeper consideration.
I have to hope so. I have to hope so. You never know. I mean, ultimately, it's about finding the right match between a director.
Well, of course, right. But when filmmakers listen to these, podcast episodes, I think they will realize
they will realize
that you're the guy for the job.
I hope you're right, Adam.
They can see your films, but really, what does that show?
It doesn't show much.
No,
it's really the letters. And the other thing that happened this year was kind of exciting. It happened for a bunch of us on The Farewell, but it also happened for my good friend Lou Ford, who cut The Witch and The Lighthouse, and used to be my assistant, started out as my intern years ago at HBO. But Lou Ford and myself and Jen Lame who I also started out with on many levels. And this year cut Tenet. Jen and Lou and a bunch of us got invited to join the Academy of Motion Pictures and Arts and Sciences, AMPAS. And that's very exciting because now we are part of a big community and can hopefully work towards change, work towards further diversification of our industry and progressive causes within movie making. It's up to the membership, and I'm very happy to be part of that now. But I mean, what's sort of strange, Adam, is like I say, like for me, I've had this, it feels like a period of personal growth because I'm able to reflect on everything. And then I'm having these professional associations that I'm joining, AMPAS and ACE, and my colleagues. And that's also increasing all the Zooms that I'm doing because every organization has different things happening. There are even these like BAFTA Friday lunches, and just it's a great chance to see all these people.
Unbelievable networking opportunities, I have to imagine.
Well, a lot of times, if you're hearing someone talk, it's really more like going, you're in the audience. But you're right. There's a chance to say hello to someone, and actually, I've been doing a lot of events myself about editing. I did one for the union. Where I spoke about different versions of The Farewell that I had worked on, and that was a lot of fun to do. We did that back in the end of June.
Well, if you do any events on where I can come in as an audience, let me know.
Yeah, I will. I'll let you know. I spoke. In fact, I recently spoke in front of a USC class on editing. Again, I was at the class, but they weren't even all in LA. All the class members were all spread out over the country. It was about as virtual as you're going to be. The teacher was in LA, other people, and then I've had some follow-up sessions with some other people. Well, I like to do a lot of mentoring. I love mentoring, and now I have time for it.
Yeah, right. In a more nuanced way, in a more. I just finished a big project for Filmmaker magazine, where they do an annual film school edition. Well, this year, of course, turned it up on its ear because. There was this whole COVID-19 issue about their fall season. So it was turned into this bear of a job because I was originally just supposed to update all the schools from last year, all the programs at film schools from last year, make sure it's accurate. But nobody was at their campuses. Right. Then asking them for COVID-19 plan, which were in many cases they were still formulating. It turned into this just. So finally, and I reached 90% of the schools through sheer, just contacting every faculty member I could find, using every connection I had. But it got done, so it's available now. And well,
it's I don't know. It's not a great time to go to film school.
No, and
I mean, it's not a great time to go to school, period, of any sort, as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah, take that, what is it called? That year off,
my feeling, of course, I'm not a parent, and I've had a couple of parents criticize me saying, well, you're not a parent, it's not for you.
You don't get an opinion.
But the
canceled.
Fact is, I've got an opinion because if school kids, kindergarten through high school or college, continue to spread the disease just like it's happening right now in the South and the West among people who aren't at school campuses, eventually that's going to hit my mother up in Connecticut, who's 89 and is still doing great, or it's going to hit me or my wife or hit a friend of ours, but it's not going to stay in the school. It's not going to stay in the college campus.
And then, so New York City, which is like the only major city which is now doing this hybrid plan.
So yes, but every day more and more teacher organizations say no, and you can't really have teaching without the teachers. And I stand with the teachers. I don't think there's going to be any in-person teaching.
Well, we're just weeks away. We're just a few weeks away from the beginning.
It's not going to happen. Let's catch up again in a month. It's not going to happen.
Well, my son, who's going into his junior year of high school,
I
he's
can't
in
believe he's in high school already. Oh my God.
almost done, halfway through rather.
Yeah.
So he and his mother, he's in Los Angeles with his mother
Yeah.
right now, and
Yeah.
we've already decided we're opting out. So he's going to stay in
Well,
LA.
it's a smart thing, Adam, and I wish more people did what you're doing because, this is just like what was happening in April with Trump saying the churches have to open, and then later on saying the gyms and the hair salons have to open. It's exactly the same, except it's schools. So anyone who tries to open schools at this point like I've received 2 letters already from the University of Michigan where I went to
I
college.
remember I saw your posting about that.
And in one case it was asking for a financial donation to help them open. And the other case it was asking for some other thing. And in both cases I said, why are you even reopening? It doesn't make any sense. It's just going to harm people. And my feeling is obviously the people who would be going to college this year, whether it's their freshman year or they're in the middle of college, I do think they should take a gap year. If they're wealthy enough, they should do what wealthy kids have historically always done, which is travel. And yes, of course, it's much harder to travel than it used to be, but eventually some countries will let us back in. And if you're not going to travel to Europe or to Africa or to Asia, you travel somewhere in the United States. Even better, as people have pointed out, why not do some sort of youth corps, job corps kind of project where it doesn't cost you a cent, and you go to the inner city and help build low-income housing, or join Habitat for Humanity, or join one of the political campaigns, whatever side you're on, and work for who the next president is going to be. I mean, there's so many chances for, I'm going to call them kids because they're younger than me, where they literally have a chance to actually get real world experience and not get sick or not spread this disease to older people. And then they can come back to college, in 12 months or in 6 months, depending on what's going on. And I think we're going to find that school after school after school after school that does try to open is going to close. The next 4 weeks are going to be, I've already read various superintendents where they've closed. They said, we had no idea it was going to be like this. I don't know where they've been all year long. I just read in the New York Times, they just tested school children. 100,000 American school children already have the virus at this moment. Not that they had the virus, they have the virus. 100,000. I mean,
yeah,
that's a lot of kids. And we have a government that's so dysfunctional. I mean, it's a non-existent government, but when it does something, it's completely dysfunctional. And it's like, we're fortunate to have a number of governors,
right? We're in a good.
We're
both in good states
who are doing good stuff. But listen, I should probably close us down because I got to do some work. I am actually working today.
Well, I'm the host and I call the shots.
I know you do.
So we've got another hour and a half on my, according to me.
Well, let's do that. But
no, I'm kidding. We'll do a part. We can always do a part 2.
Let's do a part 2.
I love you, and I love
Adam.
you, and I would love to have. We can do this anytime. It's always good catching up. I do think that it provokes thoughts, and your perspective as an editor, and coming from the specific, and the growth and your career has been evolving. I like checking in because you see the growth and how your perspective as a result.
Yeah,
of
everything
that.
keeps changing. The first time we talked, I was doing some of those Alex Calvo movies and so forth, and I was doing different projects last summer when you ran into me, and I'd love to do, let's make a sort of let's pencil in mid-September. Let's catch up in 30 days, Adam.
All right.
Let's see what's happening with the school system at that point. I'm curious. And let's see if we get any news on the movie industry. Maybe we'll have some release dates.
Sounds good.
That would be exciting. Not that we want to turn this into like a Screen Talk or anything like that, but
well, they do pretty well.
They do well enough on their own, but the
big okay. After we say goodbye, stay on for a few seconds.
I will. I'm still here.
I do want to tell you something that I can't.
Let's say
a possible announcement coming up.
We'll say goodbye. I still think you're going to have to edit this down to about 10 minutes.
I'll edit it.
Goodbye, Adam. It's been wonderful
Thank
seeing and
you.
talking to you. Oh, I wanted to say one thing before, Sian, is that
If
on
it's a
so many
compliment.
projects, on these movies, we have conference calls with Los Angeles all the time, and there's 10 people talking, and you can never hear who's saying what. You don't even know whose voice it is. We're not going to have those anymore, even after this virus is over. It will always be Zooms from now on, I think. And it's actually it's so much easier to talk to 10 people if you can actually see them.
Yeah, well, we can put this on the agenda for the next conversation, but
Yeah.
my point is all that real estate in New York City
Yes.
that is going to be, they're realizing, why am I paying millions and millions a year, tens of millions of dollars a year for office space when I can see that to some degree we can operate at such a level without office space. And when we do need it, we can go to those companies that provide that for conference rooms and suites and stuff. So the problem with New York is it's so dependent on real estate for its economy. I want to talk about that next time. And that's why I felt like the timing was right to leave New York, because I feel like the economy of New York is in such is so in trouble.
Yeah.
But we can talk about that.
I think you have an excellent point. And now that there's been a cessation of so many people getting $600 a week, even though the Republicans thought that was so much money, we're going to have a lot of evictions. We're going to have a lot of landlords. And, a lot of us are not always necessarily sympathetic to landlords, but these are the people who own the buildings, obviously, and sometimes have invested their life savings in a building. And suddenly their tenants are not paying the rent anymore because they don't have any money to pay. If they have no job, something like 30 million Americans are unemployed right now. And at least according to Paul Krugman from the New York Times, there's only 5 million jobs available, if there are. So even, there's the Republican view, of course, is if we keep handing people money, it's a disincentive to work. But there are no jobs.
There have already been studies. I don't know the degree of
I don't know what's going to happen. We have this thing with Trump over the weekend is so crazy that, I got notifications from the New York State unemployment, we don't really know what's going on, so don't call us.
And don't listen to the president.
Don't listen to the president.
They subtly.
That's sort of what they said. He might have told you were going to be getting $400 more, but that's not really.
Right. Well, they did. They wrote everything but awkward.
So, but you're right, Adam, because I've lived through those periods in the 70s in New York where the city essentially went bankrupt and had to be rescued by Felix Roten and all those people. And Gerald Ford had that famous headline in New York Post too: New York City dropped dead.
Dropped dead.
I, in my own sort of myopic view of like wanting movie theaters to open, it could be, I could be ignoring the fact that the Titanic is what's really about to hit New York.
Well,
we could be having this colossal recession.
Well, I thought you were referring. You were making a statement about, cinema in more general way. I wasn't.
Well, that's true, but I think you're right. New York is in for very, very, very hard times, and the only way New York will survive at the level that we're used to it being is with a huge amount of federal money, which at the moment the current government does not want to give us. They don't even really want to give us the $400 a week.
Although corporations are benefiting.
Oh, they're doing fine. But listen,
so we'll see.
We're going to have a new president next year, and I think in September.
Okay.
You heard it from me, and next September, and when I talk to you in 4 weeks from now, that is going to look like even more of a certainty. So, although you know what can happen between now and the middle of September? It's been a crazy year. Ups and down, up and down. So who knows? Anyway, I don't know if the show is over yet, but do you still need to? Okay, if you want.
Yeah, let's just say goodbye. Right.
Let's say goodbye.
Okay.
Goodbye, Adam.
Au revoir.
I'm walking out of the room.
Goodbye, Michael.